We're going to name not all of them, but just a few who in recent years have crossed that line from Gooner to Red Devil. And what I'm going to ask you, Matt, to do as an Arsenal fan is rate the transfer and how controversial it was, because I think some of these are still maybe a touchy subject for you today. So we'll kick it off to one of the biggest ones, Robin van Persie, RVP, the Dutchman, leaving Arsenal to join Man United, and of course helping Sir Alex win what was his final Premier League title, if I'm not mistaken.
Frustrating to say the least. I mean, as you say, they're quite sensitive topics, and he is at the very top of that list. No Arsenal fan will be objecting that this one rates probably about a 10 out of 10 in terms of frustration and the reality of it. But obviously, he had a phenomenal few years at United too, and he was such a top footballer. And it's a shame that I even need to talk about him in a great light in that regard.
A couple of years later, we had a swap deal again, one that was controversial. One a player that wanted to leave Arsenal for Old Trafford, Alexis Sanchez, and a player that went the other way was Henrik Mkhitaryan. Neither kind of made their impact though, did they? I mean, the player that Sanchez was at Arsenal compared to the player that Sanchez was at United, I can imagine as an Arsenal fan, sorry, maybe that gave you a good feeling.
It's such a weird one because you look at Alexis Sanchez and you look at the player he was for Arsenal, such a difference maker, such a fun player to watch, quite a high risk, high reward player. But, he was an elite forward, someone who was getting compared to the likes of Eden Hazard, and you don't do that without being a top footballer. I think you look at that move to United and you think that there was that summer before where Arsenal nearly signed Thomas Lemar and then Alexis Sanchez nearly joined Man City. And I don't think people would have begrudged him for joining Man City because of the level City were at. And it was at a point where, okay, if he leaves Arsenal, he's going to join one of the very best clubs in the world who are winning Premier League titles. And then to see him join United, do little and no, obviously that famous piano announcement was a bit of sour grapes. As for Henrik Mkhitaryan, a very interesting one. I mean, he's quite a likable player for both, despite being too influential. You look at him, for me, when he was at Arsenal, I felt he was a good player and, like a good creative player, but also quite a high risk, high reward player, a bit frustrating to watch. And once again, it's amazing to see the career he's had at Inter Milan.